Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Sanctuary. Week 7 is in the books. We are here to talk some Dynasty Fantasy Football. I am going to walk you through 5 risers, 5 fallers, and most importantly, who you should be buying, who you should be selling, and what you should be selling them for. Without further ado, let's dive straight into the players. First up, another big riser. I feel like I'm talking about him every single week. Puka Nacua, he is absolutely blowing everyone out of the water. He is now my Dynasty rookie wide receiver 2. He is ahead of Quentin Johnson. He is ahead of Jackson Smith-Njigba. He is ahead of Zay Flowers. The last one for him to overtake is Jordan Addison. If he keeps this up, he could easily get there. But so far this season, wide receiver 4 overall. 5 of the 7 weeks, he has been a wide receiver 1, a top 12 performer. Last week we had the little blip. I was a little bit worried that he was not going to see the target volumes in order to continue, but he bounced back with a bang. 33.9% target share this week. Over 50% of the Rams' air yards this week. It's absolutely mind-blowing. For me, I'm happy going out and spending a random 24 first, a random 24 second. I'd probably spend anything outside a top 5 pick this year, and this was a guy that was going in 3rd or 4th rounds as little as 5 months ago. He's an absolute star. He is fitted into that offense perfectly in that Robert Woods role, and I think he's here to stay. So big rise of Puka Nacua and really big hopes of what could be coming down the line. The next riser, Josh Palmer. Look, I'll hold my hands up. I wasn't the biggest believer of Joshua Palmer. I thought he was a jag. I thought he was just a guy. I thought that where this offense was going, we had Keenan Allen, we had Mike Williams under contract. They went out and spent a 1st-round pick on Quentin Johnson. Yes, I wasn't the biggest QJ fan, but I thought Joshua Palmer was going to be nothing more than the roster clogger. I'm happy to hold my hands up. Wide receiver 49 overall, averaging almost 10 points per game, and he's carving out a nice little role. He is fit into that Mike Williams role perfectly. He's keeping Quentin Johnson off the field. He's keeping that target share away from him, and yeah, what can I say? He's producing, and now we're 3-4 weeks into it that I can say I'm ready to commit. I would pay a late 24 second. I don't think you'd have to pay that. I reckon 2/3 would probably get him right now. I think somebody's looking to sell high, looking to get out before the bubble bursts. But I think as a rotational flex play in your dynasty squads, as we're going through these bye weeks, you can do a lot worse than Josh Palmer. The next guy, Jake Bobo, another rookie that, quite frankly, is outperforming what people thought. Yes, the overall numbers aren't great. Wide receiver 82, averaging 5 points per game. But DK Metcalf out with his hip injury. Jake Bobo stepped in. Where I was most impressed was his lateral quickness whilst he was able to get himself open. We saw those contested catches outside, using that 6'4", 6'5" frame. That's what we expect. But this is a guy now, 23% targets per route run, 2.3 yards per run. He is getting work when he is on the field. And yeah, I think it's a 1-week blip. We're probably going to see DK Metcalf back next week, and Jake Bobo is going to be nothing. But Tyler Lockett could be moving on at the end of the season. We could see Jake Bobo with that size, with that frame, with that lateral quickness, which you don't often see with guys his frame. He's potentially going to be fantasy relevant down the road, and for a late round fly, you're probably spending a 3rd-round pick on him, maybe a little bit more, but I'm definitely not going anywhere near like a 2nd or 2/3. But worth a flyer, stick him on the end of your bench. I would rather take a flyer on someone like Jake Bobo at cost than a couple of the fallers that we're going to be coming up against in a minute. But before we get there, if you are watching this, if you're enjoying it, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe. We've got plenty more content coming your way. The next big riser, Gus Edwards. On the face of it, Gus Edwards is nothing more than a plodding running back 2 based on volume, which is the exact kind of guys I hate because it's replacement level production. You're never going to get anything from a guy like Gus Edwards. But what happens if he goes from a 40, 50% target opportunity share and increases it? Well, Justice Hill fumbled again on Sunday. Now, you're not going to see it as Justice Hill's fumble in the stat sheet. It goes down as Lamar Jackson's, but I can tell you right now, it was Justice Hill's fault. He was trying to take that ball when he shouldn't. Lamar Jackson tried to pull it. That was on Justice Hill. After that point, he hardly saw the field. It was Gus Edwards' backfield to roll with. 71.4% opportunity share. Yes, he's probably never going to get that receiving work. That's just the type of player he is. But for the price of a late second round pick, you could easily walk into a flex play that can help you win that chip, because nobody's coming into this backfield to take carries away. The only thing stopping Gus Edwards is Justice Hill, or Kenyon Drake's now been released. I think this is Gus Edwards' backfield, and he could potentially help you win that chip down the road. The final riser is another rookie wide receiver. I feel like we're talking about them all at the moment. I love Josh Downs coming out. I thought he was an incredible value in rookie drafts, mid-second round pick. But I did not expect what he has been so far. Wide receiver 25 overall. This is a guy that's running between 70 and 80% of snaps every single week since week 1. 75% of those routes are coming out of the slot, which is exactly what we thought. But where he's differing from what I projected is that the ADOT is wild. We've seen him have weeks with average depth target around 2.7. We've seen him at 17 yard plus. The way they're using him all over the field, he's not just that traditional undersized, quick, agile slot receiver. He's getting deep. He's running down those seams. And quite frankly, he's balling. He's producing. As you can see, 20% target share on the year. But this last week, he got up to a 27% target share. Yes, Anthony Richardson, he didn't produce as well when he was under center. But Gardner Minshew's here to stay for the rest of the year. And hopefully Josh Downs can carve out a big enough role that when Anthony Richardson does come back next year, Josh Downs is already established enough that you're getting return on your investment. I would happily pay a late first for him. If you're a contender looking for that final piece to push you over the top, I think Josh Downs is an ascending player. And with Gardner Minshew under center, I think we're going to see this offense consolidate into basically 3 pieces. It's Michael Pittman, it's Josh Downs, and it's Jonathan Taylor. And I'm not sure there's anything else. So I really believe that Josh Downs, you've got to buy high on him right now, because I think he's only going to appreciate in value as we move forward over the coming months. Now we've been positive, let's time to be some negative. First guy up, Elijah Moore. I talked when I was talking about Jake Bobo, someone at Jag, a replacement guy, a roster clogger. Now Elijah Moore, he is expensive, but he is the epitome of a roster clogger. He's wide receiver 61 overall. He's averaging less than 8 points per game. Yes, the target share is there. Yes, the market air yards are there. But he's just not getting it done. This is a guy that he is far too valuable to drop. But you are never, ever putting him into your starting lineup. If you're having to start Elijah Moore, chances are you're not a contender. Therefore, what are we doing with him? I think you've got to sell right now. I think I would take a second. If it was a mid to early second, absolutely. I think you can probably get 2 seconds for him. Hell, I would love to take a second and Jake Bobo. That's the kind of move where I'm talking about. Jake Bobo's got some upside. He's got some potential that we've not seen. Elijah Moore's just not getting it done in Cleveland. And part of the reason he's not getting it done is the next guy we're going to talk about, DeShaun Watson. I was a guy, I hold my hands up. I thought through all the legal stuff, you hold DeShaun Watson. I thought he was a player you could invest around in Superflex drafts because he was a superstar when he was on the field. This is a guy that when he was active with the Texans, he was a top 3 dynasty quarterback time and time again, but he's just not getting it done. You can see there negative EPA per drop back. He's averaging less than 4 rush attempts per game, and he's a fringe QB2 right now in points per game. And throw him with that. Wait, is he healthy? Is he not? Are we just being a bit of a diva and can't be asked to see on the field? I just don't think you can invest on Deshaun Watson. I would happily sell for a couple of firsts. I think if you can pivot from him to one of the younger quarterbacks, maybe even pivot from him to someone like a Kirk Cousins, and you can get a decent asset on top. Yes, he is a well-paid, established player that is going to have lasting value in Superflex because of that contract. But I just don't know if we're ever going to see Deshaun Watson fantasy superstar ever again. So I'm happy to get out right now before I think that price plummets even further. The next guy, this is a little bit sad because I did like Greg Dulcich as a prospect, but he's back on IR again. He has only run 20 routes this year in those 2 games that he was on the field. I think potentially his days as a fantasy relevant asset are done. We see rookie wide receivers, young sophomore wide receivers, if they're not producing by their 3rd year, that's pretty much it. There's a few exceptions, but I need to see something. And yes, Greg Dulcich flashed in his rookie year, but the reason he flashed was because he was injured early and it took him a while to get back on the field. I just don't know if I can invest in an asset that's going to be tied to this Denver offense that can't stay healthy. So, yeah, I'd take what I can. Maybe the move is to pivot from Dulcich to another young tight end. Can you go and get Trey McBride or someone like that? Maybe a little sweetener on top. But for me, I just think Greg Dulcich is another one of those roster cloggers that I just don't want on my lineups. The next guy, big ticket item, fantasy superstar last year, won plenty of people titles. Josh Jacobs. He's just not getting it done. He's only had 2 running back 1 week so far this year. He's the running back 20 in points per game. And that's all despite commanding a massive running back share in that backfield, 81% opportunity share. Look, I just don't know if we're going to get back to the Josh Jacobs of old. I was here saying after week 1, after week 2, he looks rusty. Buy him. He's going to get back to that guy that we saw last year. I don't know if I can believe it. I'm worried about this offense. I think Josh McDaniels is definitely on the hot seat. I don't think he's going to be around. Devontae Adams is unhappy. He might get traded. Who knows who the starting quarterback's going to be? I think Jimmy G is, incredibly injury prone at this point, and he's off with a back. Don't think he's back this year. Brian Hoyer stunk it up. Maybe now's the time to just get rid of Josh Jacobs for what you can, because at the moment you have to start him every week. If you've got him in your roster, you have to start him. And he's just killing you. This is a guy that you're probably valuing as a running back 1, and he's giving you back end RB2 production. So go and get a first round pick. Go and pivot from him to any other running back. Can you get one of those guys that's producing right now, but his cost is low? Can you get maybe Jerome Ford's not the best option because he's injured as well, but someone like that who's giving you some production, but you can get an asset on top to go and get your next franchise running back. I just think Josh Jacobs is a declining asset, and I don't think he's giving you the return on the investment that you would hope for. The final guy I want to talk about, look, hold my hands up. I was a Zach Charbonnet believer. I was really hopeful that he was going to be the complement to Kenneth Walker and, at worst be a third down back, but hopefully start to eat into more and more of that workload as the season went on. I was hoping for that post-drive rookie bump, but it's not come, Less than a 6% target share is not where we want to be. He's injured now. Is he going to play this week? I don't know. But this is Kenneth Walker's backfield, and Zach Charbonnet's declining in value. Yeah, you probably paid a late first for him in rookie drafts, but I'd take an early second. Maybe you can get a second plus. It hurts, but at times you just got to accept. I don't think there's a world where he's going to command a big enough volume in this backfield to be fantasy relevant. So I think it's a case of get out now while you still can. That's it. 5 Risers, 5 Fallers. Is there one you disagree with? Is there someone that you think I should be talking about that I've missed? Let me know in the comments below. Whilst you're there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe. It takes less than a second and it really helps us. And it makes sure you're getting top quality Fantasy Sanctuary content into your feed time and time again. We'll be back later in the week with more redraft, more Dynasty talk, and of course the DFS shows. We'll be back soon.